Also on the world today, the United Kingdom Supreme Court is to rule shortly on whether Prime Minister Boris Johnson acted unlawfully in asking the Queen to order a 5-week suspension of Parliament. Johnson's move has outraged his opponents, who've called it a ploy to give them less time to block a no-deal Brexit. Joining me now from London is our correspondent Richard Bestic. Richard, two scenarios here. Let me ask you about the first one, where the verdict goes against Johnson. But then what? We're now pretty much halfway through that 5-week period already.
Well, Dongsho, we have 11 Supreme Court judges giving their legal opinion. They've had the weekend to think about it after a 3-day hearing last week. And quite frankly, if you get 11 legal minds in one room, it's quite possible to get 11 different viewpoints. But it will, as you say, come down to this point. Did the UK Prime Minister Boris Johnson shut down the British Parliament there to end any parliamentary scrutiny of his controversial plans to exit the European Union with or without a deal, come what may, do or die, in his words, by October the 31st, Halloween? Certainly the courts, the High Court, the Session Court in Scotland, Scotland's highest court, said yes, it was entirely political, and what's more, he misled the Queen in giving her legal advice to, as they call it in the parliamentary language, prorogue Parliament. The English High Court, England's highest court, said, well, no, we don't have the right to judge. It's not within our legal powers. It is within the powers of government to shut down Parliament when it wishes, and stepped back from the row. Now we have today the legal court, the Supreme Court, the highest court in the land, giving its view, and that will decide whether Boris Johnson acted illegally. If he is found to have acted unlawfully in the eyes of the Supreme Court, it will be a huge dent to his authority and to his credibility and his ability to run government. If, on the other hand, it goes in his favour, well, then it's just another day in the wacky world of Brexit, and we head off to the next crisis, which is coming down the road.
Richard, let's also talk about the chance the Supreme Court rules in favor of Johnson. That possibility, coupled with the fact that Donald Tusk has said there has been no breakdown but no breakthroughs in the latest Brexit talks, will a no-deal Brexit be significantly more likely given that scenario?
In a way, the Supreme Court ruling is detached from the comings and goings of Brexit. Certainly, it's quite possible the Supreme Court could rule that Boris Johnson recalls Parliament, and MPs be sitting at their desks there within a couple of hours, thinking of all sorts of ways of stopping Boris Johnson going for a no-deal Brexit. But you're absolutely right to point out that it's not just the Supreme Court from where Boris Johnson is under pressure. He is under pressure in Brussels, where they're saying, far from the optimistic view that Boris Johnson, the UK Prime Minister, puts on it, they say the talks are going backwards. And still, he has all the opposition parties waged against him. It's looking like a general election in this country is now more possible than crashing out of the European Union, because MPs have made that illegal without Parliament's approval. So that's looking more likely, but you really can't put a judgment on it either way at any stage. What you can say is that there is a high degree of uncertainty, and that uncertainty is bleeding through into business confidence in this country, and investment is going down dramatically.